Hi, Misha here, and we came out really just to get out Memorial Day, but been wanting to try this out. This is, of course, a BM59, but unlike the one we shot last time, which was a Springfield from back in the day, this is James River Armory. Now, you saw my 59E in a few videos. That one was built on a modified original M1 Grand receiver, perfectly fine. Then they went to an investment cast receiver, kind of like an M1A. But more recently, they have a new style of receiver. It is Billet, although I've seen some people call it forged. Not exactly, but that's, yeah, neither here nor there. 7.62 NATO, 308, and feeds from standard Italian military mags. And this is the mag the gun shipped with, so we're going to test fire a couple of rounds to see how it does, and then we'll come back here and talk a little bit more about it. Alright, first couple of shots. And she did hold open. And if you could, as we move on, please like, share, and subscribe. And because 308 ain't cheap, if you could, check out Patreon. Alright, round two with the same mag. And again, she held open, so the recoil is quite light thanks to this 7-inch muzzle brake device. And it's loud because of it being a brake. But yeah, it doesn't feel overgassed, but it also is holding open fine. Yeah, it feels really balanced, if that makes sense. My first couple of mags, I really couldn't ask for more. Now, you know me, I'm not the one to ask for about accuracy, but good start. The BM59 really is a favorite of mine, even from back in the day. It's just so unique and well thought out, and also economical, at least for the Italians. In America, authentic ones have always been spende. Springfield didn't make many, and then the actual like BM69, BM62 imports, whew, very few of those came in. And so the first time I saw and handled a James River BM59 was around 2016. And the kits have become available, and the mags are certainly more gettable now than they used to be. So I'm happy to see there's a little bit more of a market. And James River does do not just the standard Mark 1 or the Idle, but they also do the Alpini and the Carica Dudisti, the paratrooper. Yeah, I don't speak Italian, you might have noticed. And they even do a replica BM62. The receiver, as I mentioned, is a US made billet. The barrel is US made as well. I don't think it's chrome lined, but even some of the original Italians were not, especially if they converted Grand barrels. It's a 1 in 10 twist. It's a 19.4 inch. It looks longer because of the 7-inch combo device moderator. Of course, here's our sight. Here's our Bayo lug. You might think it's a standard NATO lug, but it's actually a little bit different. It's very, very close to an M1 carbine, so like an M4, except it has a larger ring for the 22mm. Of course, we do have a bolt release here and a tree there, and we do have a fancy trigger, winter trigger, or if you prefer, a grenade launching trigger, as a commenter pointed out in a previous video, so you wouldn't break your fingers in the trigger guard because it's pretty small. And you do have a rubber butt plate with a pretty generous 2-compartment trap door, and you have a rotatable sling swivel and on here. Now, one thing, if I have just this side swivel can get in the way of your bipod sometimes when you try to fold it and unfold it. It's not as bad when you have a sling on because you can kind of easily pull it, but just thought I'd point that out. The bipod is fine, and you can dismount it from the tube if you so choose. Alright, so we've tried it out with the factory supplied mag. Let's try a couple of just straight surplus mags. Alright, with the random surplus mag. So the second kind of random surplus mag I grabbed just didn't want to go in. Sorry, I can't really show you. It will go in, it just won't latch. So it's probably a tolerance thing. Typically in the Italian army, they only issued a couple of mags per gun. And they kind of expect you to reload with clips if you needed to. So yeah, one of the two random mags didn't want to fit. I'm sure you could foul fit it, but you know, it's a data point. I even tried putting it in with the bolt manually held back and nope. So, oh well, we tried. We'll move on. Alright, I moved the ammo from that one mag that didn't want to go in. If we had more time, I'd fidget with it, but this is just a test firing. Alrighty. Not bad. Well, we'll do more with this at the range. Limited time today, but I really just wanted to try them out. So we'll go back to probably Misha in the future at the table. Hi, Misha. This is definitely not the next day. No, we had a good time, but time we got back, it was way too late to record. So she did well. But the only issue, that one mag that was a little finicky. So let's try it out in my other James River, the one I've had for, I guess, coming on 8 years. So it was one of these two mags. Justin said I should ride on them to see which was which. Right. It's hard to braille on steel. So the first mag popped right in. So I don't think this was our treble mag. Let's try this one. I think this one's the one. It actually did lock in, but it required a good slap, so it was definitely a tighter fit. So I think it's just one of those mags that's maybe the finish is a little thicker, you know, tolerance stuff. Does hold open though, that's nice. And of course, this is that 59E, my first gun. And you'll notice the lug situation and muzzle situation is a tiny bit different than on this gun. And just so happens, as I said in the earlier part of the video, this is the 7-inch moderator. In this pouch here, I've got one of the earlier, or at least alternative, so-called 5-inch devices. This is basically, well, shortened, and you'll notice the lug on it is more like on this. And it looks like it's mostly a brake hider. I'm debating if that ring there, and you guys can tell me, is that meant for a rifle grenade? I know the early BM59s, if they did rifle grenades, it was a different system. Although this does appear to be 22 millimeter. So yeah, let's talk about bayonets for a bit, because it's actually kind of an interesting topic with these, especially in the first, 4 or 5 years of production. So 3 kind of relevant bayonets. One of them's actually even Italian. This is the US M1 bayonet for the M1 Garand, which replaced the 1905. This is the later M5, M5A1 types. And this is the actual Italian one. And I don't know if there's actually a name. It's a modified M4 style made in Italy. But I usually just see it called the BM59 Bayonet. So, and a lot of these were originally M1 carbine bayonets with one important change. And yeah, the M1 Garand heritage is clear and present. So let's begin with the older gun here. The BM59E. Now, we'll talk more about James River because this is neat. But I wanted this because this is all original barrel receiver, even if it was put together here in semi-automatic form only, because this is how Beretta did these originally, using Springfield modified receivers and a lot of modified parts. Yeah, they had to make some new ones, but originally, but like with the Type 02, they even use Garand barrels. They just shortened them about ½ an inch. And there was the BM59 SL, which was basically just a mag-fed Garand rechambered for 7.62. So it was the same, took a standard, you know, M1 or M5 like this. Now the BM59E was meant to be the next upgrade, and it was select fire. Part of the mechanism would be here. You got your rubber butt plate, and you got your honking muzzle brake. Now, these were primarily for export. In fact, this kit originally came from Argentina, because what a lot of countries did, they had plenty of Garands, some of them in great shape, but it was kind of becoming a dated rifle. Send them to Italy, send them to the pros at Beretta, and they'll upgrade your old World War II M1 Garand into at least a Korean War style BM59E or SL. I'm not going to say none of these longer ones ever served in the Italian military, but this wasn't their end goal for sure. And usually when you see these were export contracts. Again, I just think it's a history, and I really like how James River did this. But of course, since it is a Garand, it was meant for the bayonets. But with this big honking brake, the ring on this won't go over. This seems to be basically a 22 mil brake, but the later M5 here will fit if I can balance the other things at once. And there's actually a small relief cut there to let the, not ring, but nubbin fit into the gas cylinder. Not exactly a long protrusion, but you know, the whole point of these was to modernize a gun on a budget. And so, just like with the Garand, they're just repurposing the bayonets. And this is an Italian sling. They got these little rivets in them. Of course, Italy, both Beretta and Breda, just made straight up M1 Garand parts all the time, so that didn't really matter. So the biggest new stuff, aside from, you know, the full auto gobbledygook, was really the magazine. Good, economical option. This is easier because that actually has the bipod. Now this is, yeah, the very standard device, but this was the original, and you can easily unscrew this. You just unscrew your lock and it unthreads, and this would go right on. So if we had it on here, it'd be, you know, a couple inches shorter, but it still has the old school lug. And well, this one's not going to go because the ring is too small. And this one will go on, although not exactly supported. But it shows you this is a Garand style lug. When this pattern, now this is called the Idol, at least that's what James River calls it, and that you see it a lot. But it started off as the Mark I. And then as they went to newer things like the updated grenade launcher, the updated bipod, it would become the M1, or excuse me, the Mark 1A. And then I've also seen it called the Mark 1A mod. And that seems to be this full version here that was put into production and service around 1962, what have you. And this is when we kind of see the features stabilize, including this device and this pattern of bayonet lug. So again, they repurposed. Like I said, Italy was making M4 type bayonets in-house. I know the Turin Arsenal made them. This one is actually Italy, and it's another state arsenal. I frankly forget which one. I know it's 65 dated. And this has the kind of the older school looking scales. But yeah, it has this new lug, and the key difference between this and an M4 is it has the 22 mil enlarged ring for this new pattern of lug. They would actually continue using this bayonet for the later AR-70, and I believe even the AR-70-90 had essentially this. Now they would update. There's a few different patterns. You have different color grips, kind of brown, red. Later ones can be, more black, different textures. But all in all, pretty well the same bayonet, and all it is a M4 with a 22 mil ring. You've seen these bayonets in recent history. I know Apex had some for a while. I think James River had some, Atlantic. So as these kits came in that James River has built from, we've been able to get the bayonets and the extra mags. And again, this is my Italian mag pouch you've seen. It's actually kind of a multi-purpose pouch that can hold the PM12 mags, the submachine gun, and a lot of these were either new made or repurposed. I believe they were Sten pouches originally, but again, this was all done on an economy, and it served Italy very well. The BM59 was in frontline service until 1999, and in second line service, especially with the Navy and like reserves and parades and things, much longer. It's just cool. Unfortunately, the pre-bands are expensive and hard to find in America, and James River has kind of been at it for a while. Maybe they made a couple of missteps along the way, but the new receiver here seems pretty solid after we've shot it. So yeah, let's kind of talk about Beretta receivers. Alrighty. Brought out my pre-band. Very first thing, I wanted to try that mag. And yeah, it does lock into this one, but whereas most of these, when you put them in, you hear that nice pop of your mag catch. This one didn't, so it fits, but it's the tightest. Well, you see there, it's already kind of loose. So with that said, that's two other receivers, including an actual Beretta. I'm going to say it's just a large spec mag. It does work, but a person probably would want to shave the lug a bit. But that, yeah, we'll move on and compare receivers and see how James River's new Billet really does look. This is the original James River, which is on a modified Springfield receiver. These are the factory markings, and then of course they put their own markings, which is US law, on this side. And then the Beretta receiver, which is Springfield in a different way. See the P Beretta there. These came over in a few different manner. Some were kind of incomplete forgings, so you'll just see Springfield markings on them. But others, like this one, were either nearly fully complete or fully complete. And so you do have your P Beretta markings. But even if you see that, they weren't imported as complete guns. They were assembled here. And then our James River, current one, because this is a newly made receiver, we don't need the side markings, we just have theirs. And they have kept the BM59 name. Kind of the same styling. Pretty good depth on them. Yeah, because the depth of the markings on the Beretta, it's pretty bold. And the kind of phosphate finish, I don't know about color. I'm not really good at colors, but the texture is very similar to the Beretta here. All right, let's check out machining. So, starting off with the modified original, you see nice lightning cut, some, chattering marks, because these were military government contracts, many of them made during wartime. Perfectly acceptable, though. The Beretta receiver is a little nicer in terms of fit and finish, but you can still see a little bit of marking tooling, because these are just, again, traditional forgings, a lot of hand tooling, 60s technology. What do you expect? And just to reiterate, I think it was 70, even 75% of the BM59s were originally built on modified Garand receivers, be they Italian or Springfield. It was only towards the end of production that they were making all new purpose-built BM receivers. And here's our James River. And as JRA was pointing out, it actually is probably the smoothest and just aesthetically nicest. But then again, it is a commercial receiver meant for civilian sales, all that. Of course, again, this is not a traditional forged, it's billet, which frankly I have no problem with. But, you know, I was trying to be honest with you. So now we'll flip them over and check out the other side. Again, there's a hole in the stock for the gobbledygook, but notice it's just solid there. I like the lines of the edge of the receiver too. Of course, this is the original. The Beretta, the lines are a little different, the edges. And notice this one has a hole there because it was an original Italian bit shaft there. Not a whole lot to see, honestly, guys. But I was kind of going over there. I was fingering this gun real good, and the lines, the way this receiver curves, is very, very similar to the original here. I say that because a lot of your investment cast M1A receivers, not all, but over the years, they have very just distinct sharp edges at the heel, and that to me is just not right. I like the kind of rounded edge. Totally a cosmetic thing, but hey. Also, speaking of cosmetic, I mentioned the clip guide that would have been here. Again, here it is on this gun. Yeah, this is a part of the receiver. Like it's in there. It's not meant to ever be removed, so makes perfect sense why that would be a pain in the arse. Also, seems like it would make mounting an optic troublesome if you ever wanted to do that. Kind of rounding up the whole talk of the receiver. That way we would just kind of move them. You know, perfectly nice gun. Nice M1 Garand type of trigger. And of course the fancy trigger, which is a hair trigger on this thing. So let's compare it to the E. Of course, there's no fancy trigger on the E. This is very smooth too, but it's also built with used parts. These were built with usually virgin parts. Trigger's not quite as nice on this one as the Springfield pre-bend. And now our current gun. A little bit stiffer spring, then again it's the newest. I'm going to say the trigger's not quite as nice as the Springfield pre-bend, but I actually think the bolt throw is slightly slicker. So a little bit better trigger on this guy, but just a tiny bit rougher bolt, and you can hear that on the spring. That's normal, probably if I greased it, but you know, military guns, that's just kind of how they do. But you don't really. Yeah, that's a smooth bolt throw. Let's try the fancy trigger. Not bad. It's less of a hair trigger, so that's good. Oh, one other thing I kind of wanted to point out that I do kind of like about the James River. I'm checking this and I was look. Now this stock is pretty smooth here and here, and so was this one. Again, these were built from essentially virgin parts, so not really much in the way of markings. Which again, for the 80s is fine. I do like, though, that the James River has some marks back here. And I think it's PB mark here on the wrist. Now it does have a very matte kind of oil finish. It's fine. I do kind of like this somewhat glossier finish on this gun, and I do have original Italian stocks, you know, surplus, and their finish seems to be in somewhere in between. Not as glossy as a Springfield, but a little more than this, but it could just be because, you know, they're used. But yeah, I do like that this one has markings. I want to be honest, I didn't have low expectations of this new generation of James River, but because this one's been a good gun for me. But I'm impressed, honestly. For one thing, it cycled very well. It didn't, again, the recoil was good. Didn't feel overdone. And after kind of sitting here at the table and trying out that one mag with the other guns, I just think it's the mag issue more than the gun. I was a little tiny bit concerned, is it going to be mag picky? But no, I don't think any more than anything else. I mean, would I sell a pre-band to get it? No, I mean, who would? But considering even the pre-bands, unless you have a 69 or a 62, they're US put-togethers anyway, which doesn't bug me, but might some. So pretty much if you want a semi-automatic BM59 in America, you're getting a kit build of some stripe. Now, of course, this one, again, has the Beretta receiver. Not all the Springfields do, but it does have the original Beretta 19.4-inch barrel up here. And this has the new US-made 19.4. So not getting the original barrel kind of stinks, but no, that's just life. What do you do? At least it is a good barrel, as far as we can tell. But you'll need JRA or Fox or someone else. I'm not your guy for accuracy. I can ramble about history, and we can have fun seeing if it's reliable, but you need to go elsewhere. Frankly, I recommend Henry at 9-hole. He's a pretty crack shot and funny guy. So what do you think? Is it of interest to you? If so, do you like the standard Idle version, the Mark I, or do you like the Mark III, which was the Alpine / Paratrooper version? You know, different barrel essentially, same stock. Or maybe you think the BM62 carbine variant that they do is up your alley. It does have, I'll be honest, it's a little bit tempting to me. I think it's the cheapest because it is more of a commercial. Also, I'm curious, would you guys pay the extra for the stripper clip mount? Again, it's like $200-250. Is that worth it to you? I'm sincerely curious because I'm very much of two minds. Honestly, I think if you're just buying it as a shooter, no, you wouldn't really need it. In fact, it might be a detraction if you want to try to put a scope on it somehow. But of course, if you're an Italian collector, especially wanting everything as close as humanly possible, then yeah. And that's really the reason I got this 59E from them years ago. I've never seen a pre-band 59E, this configuration with the longer barrel and everything. Allegedly, Springfield did build some from parts, but I never saw them. And since this does still have the original receiver, barrel, all that, I felt like this was as legitimate as this, because again, all US kit builds anyway. But I'm happy this gun's kind of getting some love because it's a Cold Warrior. Usually we think of the FAL, the G3, maybe the M14. By the way, we've done a M14 versus BM59 video in the past. Maybe we'll redo it in the future, but shoot, 308 ammo is so expensive, guys. And that kind of gets me to the closeout. Please, if you could, help out on Patreon, because even just putting a couple of boxes, I think we put 3 total through the new one, you're looking at $50 in ammo. I do it because I love you, but if you could show some love back, that'd be really good, because the ammo bill, yeah, I do what I can. And I wanted to do this because these guns are on the market, and I wanted to show people, at least for us, is it reliable, and how does it compare aesthetically to an original? And in both cases, I'm going to give it pretty great marks. Really hard to ding it for reliability. It's pretty well A+ so far. Now, James River does recommend NATO spec 7.62. I think they said like 147-ish grain ammo. Anywho, goose, there we go. Anyhow, guys, I'm happy it went well. Happy we were able to get out and shoot this because I've been kind of excited about it. So let me know what you think. As always, if you can't help out on Patreon, we completely understand. But at least like, share, and subscribe, please. And check out our older BM59 videos when you have time. With that, as we roll into actual summer, this is Misha. And, yeah, we'll catch you very soon, even hotter, next time.